In a room devoid of color, a child has two options: succumb to the gray or vividly project their own color onto the walls. Anne Shirley approached her time in a grim asylum with the mindset of a psychological survivalist. Her primary defense mechanism was projection. In a world that offered her nothing to look at, she manufactured her own beauty out of thin air to keep her mind intact. This diagram represents Anne's analytical tool, scope for imagination. When the environment provides zero stimulation, internal imagination maxes out to compensate. To endure her ugly orphanage uniform, she spiked her meter to maximum, visualizing pale blue silk and a gold watch over the drab fabric. That mental engine ran at full capacity when the 11-year-old stepped off the train at Bright River Station, marking her arrival on Prince Edward Island. Years of deprivation had trained her to invent radiance out of nothing. This arrival raises a question. How does a mind wired for sensory starvation react when dropped into an environment that is already radiantly beautiful? The lush, overwhelming nature of Green Gables offered an immediate shock to her system. To process this sensory overload, Anne deployed her first coping mechanism, renaming. When locals referred to a blooming stretch of apple trees simply as the avenue, she rejected the label for being too literal to capture the experience. She rechristened it the White Way of Delight. She was actively editing her geography, assigning the landscape the emotional weight she felt it deserved. A nearby body of water, known locally as the practical Barry's Pond, received the same treatment. Under Anne's editorial eye, it became the Lake of Shining Waters. Renaming was only the first step. Her history of extreme isolation demanded companionship, so she applied a second mechanism, personification. She animated her physical surroundings to build the family she lacked. A blossoming cherry tree leaning out from a bank became a bride in a misty veil. Birch trees down in the hollow received earnest, spoken good afternoons and blown kisses from her bedroom window. Anne actively collaborated with nature, using her imagination to cure her own loneliness by turning the landscape into a cast of characters. That collaboration reached its limit during her initial buggy ride with Matthew Cuthbert. At twilight, they drove under the arched canopy of snowy, fragrant apple blossoms. Sitting in the buggy, she went completely silent. She described feeling a queer, funny ache directly in her chest. This ache was the result of a sensory disorientation. For the first time in her life, she was looking at a physical space that she could not improve by pretending it was something else. Look at our scope gauge. As they entered the avenue, the physical beauty of the environment filled the external scale to 100%. Consequently, her internal imagination dropped to zero. The external world was doing the heavy lifting, causing a massive system shock. That pleasant ache was the physical sensation of a survival tool powering down. It revealed her imagination to be a highly sensitive instrument for measuring her world, one that finally encountered a reality it couldn't outshine. Years later, the sharp desperation of the orphan had settled into the quiet contentment of a young woman. The constant safety and beauty of Green Gables mellowed her. She eventually moved past the need to talk to her own reflection in a glass bookcase store, a phantom friend she had named Katie Maurice. Instead, she would sit by her east gable window and look out at the purpley dark beechwoods. She was present in the tangible world, anchored to the landscape rather than escaping to a fantasy castle. Her appreciation for the island's iron-rich red roads and sweeping ocean shores deepened. Her connection to the land became a grounded love for the soil and water that actually existed beneath her feet. Her imagination had evolved into a magnifying glass for finding wonder, a shift from the survival shield she once used to deflect trauma. This presents a practical philosophy. Actively searching a room, a commute, or a conversation for its scope for imagination is a deliberate practice that can elevate any mundane environment. Anne Shirley's imagination served as an active, profound method of connecting with her environment.